friends! My name is Shayla, and today I am here to wrap up the reading month of June for you. So in this second half of the month, I was able to get 11 things read. Take into consideration 4 of those are manga, and 2 of them I was pretty well through by the last time I did a wrap up. So I finished those 2 pretty quickly after my last one. So with that in mind, let's just dig right in because I've got 11 books to talk about. So the first book I want to talk about is one that I actually don't own a physical copy of. This is The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. This book is a memoir, and it was a very intriguing read. I ended up giving this book 4 stars because this is about a man who suffered a stroke, and then because of the stroke ended up suffering something called locked-in syndrome. So basically, they're a paraplegic, but they can get some of their movement back. Like, he was able to get some of the movement in his face back, like he was able to blink. Towards the end of his life, he was able to mumble out some words, but not a lot. He was able to do enough physical therapy and speech training to at least get that far. So the whole book was dictated by blinks to someone. And so the whole premise behind the book, for one, is super cool. And number 2, I really enjoyed hearing his perspective. You know, there's been a lot of talk from the whole Me Before You discussion, and I think this book was a very realistic look at what somebody feels when they've lived a very active life and all of a sudden they can't anymore. It talks about, you know, the grief of his family, his grief. It talks about all of those kind of things. And I think those are really important points that people need to understand. So if you liked Me Before You at all, or if you felt like it was purely about ableism, I do recommend picking up The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. I think you'll really enjoy this honest memoir and perspective. Next up, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this book, and that is Wink Poppy Midnight. This is a contemporary book about a hero, a villain, and a liar who's who. I felt like this was pretty cliche and pretty understandable. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I didn't think it was anything all that great, honestly. There was quite a few things about this book that properly annoyed me. Trina from Between Chapters did a review on this recently, and she pretty much touched on everything that bothered me. She gave it a 1 star. I gave it 2.5 stars. So I will link her review down below if you want to go and watch it so you can hear what bothered me about this book. Next up is my classic choice for the month of June, and that was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I ended up liking this more than I initially thought I would. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I feel like the characters are very lovable, and that you end up being able to really enjoy the story and his writing. And for a Dickens, it's not that long, so definitely try this one. Next up is Volume 3 in the Wheel of Time series, which is The Dragon Reborn. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I plan on continuing on with the series, especially where this book left off. And the series is getting better. I know it's going to hit another lull soon, but I'm going to ride it as long as I can. And I probably won't finish them by the end of the year like I wanted to, but I'm going to get a chunk of it done this year, and that'll make me feel really good. Next up is book 2 in the Parasol Protector series, and that is Changeless by Gail Carriger. April, Sarah, and I are buddy reading this series. I'll link her channel down below as always. You guys know I think she's a doll. If you have not checked out her channel, you are totally missing out. Anyway, so the second book is Changeless. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars, just like the last one. There were some stupid things that certain characters did in this book. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And you can direct message me so we can talk about it. But overall, I do enjoy the story. We got to see some characters apparently from the Finishing School series. I have not read the Finishing School series yet, but plan to soon, because I really do enjoy the wit of Gail Carriger's writing. Next up is the Shakeys Out Book Club Book of the Month, which we are discussing tonight on Facebook. I will leave the link to the group down below. All you have to do is click it and click add, and you can join us for the discussion tonight. It's at 8:30 Mountain Time, so go ahead and join us. We'd love to have you. And that is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I have to be honest and say this is my least favorite Sanderson book I have read to date. I gave this book 3.5 stars. You can tell it was his first published work. I felt like we heard too much from a villain perspective. I mean, once you get to the end of the book, you understand why, but it still bothered me. We spent so much time in his head. I mean, getting occasional glimpses here and there, I like that in a book, because I like to know what my villain's thinking a little bit. I don't want to hear the full plot and plan on their end, because then that spoils later things for me. So, anyways, 3.5 stars. It is a solid fantasy book, but it is not my favorite. If you're going to start reading some Brandon Sanderson, maybe start with this one first and get it out of the way, and then go on to enjoy his other works. Warbreaker is still my favorite, followed very closely by The Way of Kings. So go ahead and check out Brandon Sanderson if you haven't, because he's awesome. Alrighty, the next 4 are going to be the 4 manga that I have consumed, and I'm just going to go through these pretty quick, because 3 of them are series that I'm following, and then the other one is a new series. I'll spend a little more time talking about that one. So, first up is Volume 3 of Death Note. I am continuing my journey with Death Note and loving every minute of it. If you guys don't know what Death Note is about a young boy named Light Yagami who ends up finding this notebook called a Death Note. And by touching it, he summons the Soul Reaper, who is bored, and so he dropped his notebook into the Earth world. And so as Light picks it up, he summons the Shinigami to him, and the story picks up from there. Essentially, this notebook, you can write somebody's name down, and within, I think it's 40 seconds? I don't remember off the top of my head. But within a short amount of time, the person will die of a heart attack, unless you further specify ways in which they should die. You can set times. Like, it's a really interesting play on the moral ground of a vigilante, and I really love this series. If you have not checked it out, definitely do. So I am 3 of these Black Edition novels in, which is 6 volumes of the actual manga. So I'm pretty deep in. I still love every second of it. There is an anime, so if you're curious, maybe check out the first couple episodes and then pick up the manga series. I think I get more from the manga than I did from the anime though, so definitely keep that in mind as you're looking. Next up was from the books I wanted to get to this summer, and that is Forget Me Not. This is by Mag Hasu and Now Emoto. I think that's how I'm going to say their names. It's very Japanese, so I will put them in the description down below. Anyways, this manga is about a young man who has an accident, and he sees his rescuer and recognizes her face. And so he's trying to place where in his life she fits. He can't remember her name or anything of that sort. I have an idea as to who it is, but I am excited to see who it actually is as I continue on with this series. I believe there are 2 volumes of manga out right now, so I'm going to give it a little more time, let a few more release, and then I'll continue on with this particular series. But it is enjoyable. The art style was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to pick up a new manga and you don't mind a little fluffy romance manga, this is definitely a great one. And the next 2 are volumes 10 and volumes 11 of Fairy Tail. I am continuing my journey with Fairy Tail. You guys know how much I love it. I don't have to talk about it. I have whole videos dedicated to Fairy Tail on this channel. Just search Fairy Tail at the top and you will find them. It's about a guild of wizards going on various adventures, and we're getting a lot of backstory of one of my favorite characters right now, so I'm really enjoying where I'm at in the manga right now. And last but not least this month is Letters in the Jade Dragon Box by Gail Sears. This is an LDS religion historical fiction, and this is about 1970s China and Hong Kong specifically, and how the LDS Church began to blossom there. So if you are curious, or if you are Christian at all, I think you would enjoy this read. Even if you aren't necessarily a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I do think it's an enjoyable read. I mean, it takes a really good historical look at what was going on in 1970s China, and I really enjoyed all of those elements of the story very, very much. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I would highly recommend it. Okay, friends, so those are the 11 items that I read in the second half of the month. If you're interested in what I read in the first half of the month, I will leave that wrap-up linked down below for you. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you Friday. Have a great day. Bye.